Today's video, I'll be talking about the current economic slowdown, and if you have an old computer, you could simply just upgrade it and keep it for a few more years. That's one of the options you could look for if you have an old machine. This computer that I'm using right now is basically an i7-4790K. I did a number of upgrades to it. I upgraded the storage to M.2 NVMe SSD. I upgraded the graphics card to a, let me show you. Graphics card that I'm using is a NVIDIA Geforce RTX 3060. The amount of RAM I have in this is 32 gigabytes. It had, when I first got it, I put in about 16 gigabytes and I upgraded it to 32 gigabytes later. So the major upgrades I did to this computer was M.2 NVMe upgrade for the storage. I added 16 gigabytes of RAM more, and I upgraded the graphics card from originally when I first put it together back in 2014. I put in a I didn't really have a graphics card at first, but I think a year later I put in a PNY Geforce GTX 970 4 gigabyte video card. And earlier this year, I upgraded the graphics card to a Geforce RTX 3060. So I upgraded this machine, and I'm still using it right now as my secondary computer. I do have another computer, which is an i7-10700KF. That's the computer that I put together in last year, I think maybe around July or June or something. And it cost me about roughly anywhere from maybe about $1,500 to $1,600 to put that together with all the parts and everything. But in an economic slowdown like this, I guess a lot of people might not have the option to buy the latest computers or computer hardware. So there's always an option to upgrade your computer, you know. So let's look at the options. So I'll show you my computer basically. System information here. This CPU that I have is an i7-4790K, as you can see. The motherboard is the Asus motherboard. And I have 32 gigabytes of RAM, as you can see. And I upgraded this operating system from Windows 10 to Windows 11. So the operating system that I'm using is Microsoft Windows 11 Pro. So the one that I had previously was Windows 10 Pro, basically. And the operating system I had in this computer in 2014 was, I think it was Windows 8.1 Pro. And then Microsoft allowed you to upgrade your operating system to Microsoft Windows 10. I think this was in 2016, which I did. I upgraded that to Windows 10 Pro, and I used some kind of hack to upgrade it to Windows 11 Pro, because this computer doesn't have um, the required hardware to upgrade it to Windows 11. If you're interested, I'll leave that in the video cards on the top right corner if you want to see that video. And that's pretty much it. And I have a lot of storage devices on this computer. I have show you. I have this is my M.2 SSD. This is a 3 terabyte hard drive. This is a 1 terabyte hard drive. I have 3 1 terabyte hard drives, and I have one Samsung 2.5 inch 500 gigabyte SSD, and this is the original SSD that I was using for this computer. But after I upgraded to M.2 NVMe, this is where I put my operating system. I'm just using this as a storage drive, basically. And I have a DVD RW optical disc in it as well. Okay, so if you have a first generation i7 core, i3, i5, or i7 based computer, then the best CPU you can get for that computer is i7 980. And these CPUs are not a lot of money. You could probably find it on eBay. eBay has a lot of used stuff in it for not a lot of cash. I guess anywhere from $55 to $85. You can get one of these CPUs. I don't want to compare this to the computer that I have now, which is this. That's the 9th generation i7. Definitely can't make a comparison to that. Because they don't have that CPU, so I can't make a comparison to that. But this was the fastest CPU for the first generation Core i processors. So you could upgrade the CPU if you want, if you have this type of computer. If you have a second generation Core i Intel computer, then this is the best CPU you can get for it. An i7 2600K. And if you have a third generation Intel Core i based computer, this is the best CPU you can get for that computer, an i7 3770K. And if you have a fourth generation Intel Core computer, then this is the best CPU you can get for that, which is an i7 4790K. And there are differences between these CPU or chipsets. As for the RAM, they all use DDR3. You could get the fastest one, which is a DDR3 12800, which is rated at 1600 megahertz. Or you could get the slower DDR3 PC10600, which is about 1333 megahertz. So for the core first generation Core i processors, I think there's 6 memory slots. Each memory slot supports up to 4 gigabytes. So that's the maximum. And that's what you can get in it for for the first generation Intel Core processors, you can also buy Xeon processors as well, like Xeon 5 6. This is probably the best CPU you can put in for a first generation Intel Core socket. This one right here. This is a Xeon W3690. I think they should work on your first generation, and it's cheaper than the Intel i7 980, as you can see, as you saw previously. And I have one computer with this processor. That would be my Dell XPS 9000. I upgraded the CPU from a i7 920 to a Xeon W3690 processor. I made a video about that. I'll put that in the video descriptions. Not the video description, but the video cards on the top right corner as well. And this CPU is very, very fast. And as for second generation Intel Core processors, like I said, it's the i7 2600K, and for that kind of for that chipset, the maximum is 32 gigabytes, and that would be for this to that to i7 4790K. So 32 gigabytes is the maximum memory you can put in for all three of these. And the maximum amount of memory you can put in per bank is 8 gigabytes, as you can see. In my computer, I put in an 8 gigabyte G-Skill memory stick. So that's why I have 32 gigabytes, because there's only 4 slots. And as for the storage upgrade options, you could put a M.2 NVMe storage SSD in this computer right here. In a 4th generation Intel Core processor, you can put in a M.2 NVMe. These the computers for this CPU will have a motherboard that supports M.2 NVMe slot, so you can put one of these in there. For the others, you cannot put M.2 NVMe because it's not supported on those motherboards. And if you want more hard drive space, you can always buy a mechanical hard drive. And these are not very expensive, and you can upgrade your storage if you need it. And you could also, if you don't have a SSD already in your old computer, let's say if you have a Intel i7 Core i7 based computer and you don't have an SSD, you could pick up one of these Samsung 500 gigabyte 2.5 inch SSDs. They're not a lot of money. You could probably buy it from anywhere from $50 to $70, depending on where you buy it from. As for the graphics cards, there are differences between these 4. So for the i7 980 and the i7 2600K, these CPUs have motherboards which don't have UEFI in it. Therefore, you cannot put a graphics card like a Geforce GTX 1600 series, nor can you put in a Geforce RTX 2000 series or a RTX 3000 series, because those motherboards don't support UEFI. Therefore, you cannot use the later version of video cards like So you're limited. So it would be less than, it would be less than I guess 1600 series, or less than the RTX series. So you could support this video card. This is the best video card you can get for these CPUs, basically. If you have a i7, if you have a 3rd generation or 4th generation core Intel motherboard, then those do have UEFI. Therefore, you can support the latest video cards, like I have in this computer that I'm recording with right now. This computer has a Geforce RTX 3060 in it, 12 gigabytes video card, which I'm using. And the 3rd generation could also support that. So if you need to upgrade the video card, you could upgrade the video card. And if you want to upgrade the operating system, like I did with my computer, you could do that with any of these computers as well. Because I was able to upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11 on my Dell XPS 8300, which belongs to this generation of CPUs. And it's possible to do that. And I also done it with my Dell Precision T5500, which belongs to this generation of CPUs. I also upgraded that from Windows 10 Professional to Windows 11. And it's working just fine. So it's always cheaper to upgrade a computer than buying a whole new computer, because when you buy a whole new computer, you will have to buy new RAM. You'd have to buy you don't have to buy a new case. You could use your old case if it's a standard ATX case. Some of the stuff could transfer over, like the hard drives. They, like, if you had some analog, not analog, but mechanical hard drives in your old machine, these could transfer over to your new machine. The 2.5-inch 500 gigabyte or 1000 gigabyte SSD could also transfer over to your new machine. But the motherboard, the RAM, CPU, and stuff like that cannot transfer over. Also, the power supply could transfer over if you're upgrading. So it's really up to you if you want to upgrade. If you want to upgrade the whole thing by getting a whole new computer, or if you just want to keep your existing computer and keep it running for maybe 3 to 4 years or something, upgrading some components of the computer like the CPU, the RAM, storage, adding more storage, or adding a better graphics card could definitely prolong the life of your computer without spending anywhere from, I guess, $1,300 to $3,000 on a new machine. So those are just my thoughts. And if you have any thoughts, you could leave in the comment section below.